Okay.
All righty, it's recording. This is Chez, Benson, episode 3. Russell Knox, one of my dearest friends, Russell Knox. Hi, Russell.
Johan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Well, first of all, let's start with the COVID-19. What have you been up to? How is it in Jacksonville? And are golf courses closed? Are you able to swing a few?
Golf courses are open, except for, my club that I'm a member at is closed all year, regardless of the COVID-19. They were closed for renovations, but TBC Sawgrass is still open, and all the other courses in the area. So yeah, it's if you want to play, it's still definitely available for you. I, on the other hand, have enjoyed this little break, so I really haven't touched a club too many times since play was cancelled at the Players' Championship. So I do have facilities to play. I have a net and a little mat on my back deck, so I can make some swings. I just have chose to kind of hit the reset button, I guess, and use this opportunity for like a nice little break.
You and I have talked about that. You've played a lot later last year and beginning of this year. You've been grinding quite a bit to kind of try to regain form, and you have been playing quite a bit. Talk to me about your Scottish heritage. How long did you live in Scotland? When was the move to the States? Were you golfing in Scotland as a kid, or?
Yeah, I was born in Scotland, and I lived there until I was 18, and then moved over to Jacksonville, Florida, to attend Jacksonville University on a golf scholarship and business management degree. But I grew up playing all kind of Scottish sports, I guess you would say, soccer and golf and indoor games when the weather got poor. But yeah, I obviously loved golf from a young age. My father introduced me to the game, and it just, as I kind of got a little older, 14, 15, 16, I started playing more. And then my game progressed to a level where college golf was an option. So I jumped to that opportunity. And then here we are, like, 7,
and where you played
later.
Where you played in college is not what you would say a golf powerhouse. You're definitely the best player that came out of there. Were there any other tour players that graduated from Jacksonville, or are you the only one on tour right as of now?
As of right now, on the PGA Tour, yes, myself, and there's one other player on my team that I played with, Duncan Stewart. He played golf in Europe on the European Tour for a few years, but he's kind of been on and off the tour for a little bit now. So hopefully he can play some good golf here when we restart to kind of secure his status. But no, I'm the only one that's made it on the PGA Tour for now. So hopefully some of the younger guys will kind of break through like I did.
Speaking of Duncan Stewart, he makes fun of you a lot for kind of losing your Scottish accent. So he sent me 3. The first one is that's a wee gem. So how do you pronounce that with the proper Scottish accent?
That's a wee gem. My father's from the US and my mother's Scottish, so we used to come to the US a lot when I was a youngster. So my ability to adapt my my accent has probably been pretty good over the years. So
and the other 2 he sent, the second one was "Ya Dancer."
Yeah, that's I don't know. There's so many funny Scottish drunken.
And the last one was a stiff ba.
What was that?
Stiff ba, B-A-W, stiff ba.
Stiff ba. I don't know. Scotland is like, maybe it's the same in Montreal and whatnot, that every kind of 30 minutes you go, the dialect kind of changes a little bit. There's different slang words used. And where I grew up and Duncan grew up, not that far apart, but we definitely spoke differently. So
Right.
he's
And I,
uh, he's
I,
definitely kind of more
I
Scottish
was
than me.
lucky. I was lucky enough to caddy the Scottish Open for you, and that was a shock. What's that pudding they eat in the morning?
Oh, like black pudding. Yeah, that
Oh,
was never a favorite of mine. No, I stick to the sausage and bacon.
all right. So when you played college in Jacksonville, so when was the pro start? That's when you and I met actually. We basically we turned pro or around the same years or so, and we met on the Hooters tour. So that where you started your professional career, the good old Hooters tour.
Good old Hooters tour. Yeah, I mean, 2007, I graduated Jacksonville University, and I think my first ever professional event was actually a Tar Heel Tour event in which was kind of stationed in North and South Carolina.
That was the
So I,
absolute competitor of the Hooters tour. That was like the direct.
yes,
I remember that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and then they ultimately turned into the e-golf tour, but no, I definitely played majority of my mini tour golf, which lasted kind of 3 years on the Hooters tour. We would play those 3-day winter series events in Orlando area, and then the summer series, the 4-day events would be kind of all over the kind of the eastern half of the
Yeah.
country. So it was fun to travel around, and obviously got to meet yours truly, Mr. Johan Benson. So it was
Yeah,
definitely
I
worth it.
remember that. And then you went on to a very obviously you were a dominating force on the Hooters tour, and then you went on to Mondaying into a Monday qualifier into a Corn Ferry event. So tell me about that. Back then was the web.com, but now it's the Corn Ferry. Tell me about that rain shortened event that basically got you your big break on a major tour.
Yeah, I mean, I remember sitting with my wife, girlfriend at the time, and we were. I had played 3 good years on the Hooters tour, and I would play well, and I'd go to Q school, and then just kind of tank it. So we kind of just said, Q school is not going to be for me, so let's commit to Monday qualifying until we're kind of broke. So fortunately, I had enough saved up, so. I jumped on a plane, flew out to San Francisco area to try and Monday qualify for tournament at Stonebrae. And I remember there's so many weird stories you remember. I played a practice round with a couple old members of the course, and there was these protesters protesting right on the first tee, and they were like banging their drum, and all like the whole practice round you could hear these people like chanting and banging the drum. But ultimately, I remember on 17, I think I was 1 under, so I knew I wasn't going to make it unless something crazy happened, and I made like a 30-foot putt on 17 to get to 2 under, and then the last hole was a par five, and I hit a nice drive and hit my little three hybrid to like 2 feet and tapped in for eagle to get to 4 under, I think it was, and ended up making it into the tournament with no playoff or anything. So I was absolutely delighted because I just committed to flying out to California, doing this Monday qualifier, and I ended up making it, which was great. And then it all happened like so quickly in the tournament. I remember standing on the first tee, and it was up on this hill, Stonebrae, and you look down, this beautiful view, and there's water, and it reminded me of the view I had from my bedroom window in Scotland. It was very similar. It was kind of eerie. So I had these like really great feelings of the week that I just kind of felt like at home, and being kind of a little cooler up there. It was the same kind of thing, kind of reminded me of Scotland, and just the way the course kind of played. It was like almost like linksy. You could use slopes, and you didn't really have to aim at the pin. You could use the slopes to get the ball close, and it was just fun. And I was just I played some great golf, and I remember on Sunday, I hit it close on 18. I had like 3 feet for birdie, and I missed. And I didn't really think anything of it though. I just tapped in for par because I was still way up there. I was one behind the leader. And ultimately, that putt meant a lot because as we went into Sunday, we, on the eighth hole, the fog rolled in and they called the tournament, and Daniel Chopra ended up winning. So that 3-foot putt that I missed on Saturday to finish actually was important. But of course, at the time, I would have never known that. But my second place finish got me status on the the Corn Ferry Tour, which was ultimately the biggest goal entering the week. And I mean, a couple of months later, I won, and on I went to the PGA Tour. So it happened extremely quickly for me, which was an amazing story.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't know if the final round, like, anything could have happened. You know, you could have had just a normal round and not finish second and not get your full status. And a little later, is it that same year that you shot 59 out on the Corn Ferry Tour?
No, that was a couple years later, actually, in 2013. So I played my rookie year on tour, on PGA Tour, was 2012, and then in 2013, I had conditional status, so I played some on the Corn Ferry, some on the PGA Tour. So that was the year I squeezed in the old 59.
And was it around that everything was clicking, or did you leave even a couple shots out there? Or
I mean, I remember got off to like a decent start. It was nothing crazy though. I started on the back nine, and I think I turned in like, I was maybe like two or three under after kind of the first 6 or 7, and I think I turned it maybe 3 or 4, and then I got a couple quick birdies, and then I remember I holed, I think three the longest putts of the year I made in a row. So I made like a 40 footer, a 50 footer, and a 60 footer, 3 holes in a row. So I knew it was. I knew it was going to be a good day then, but it was just one of those days. Obviously, when you shoot a super low score, I had like perfect yardages for full wedges, and that course there in Boise, Hillcrest, I believe it's called. It's quite narrow, quite tight, and a lot of people lay back off the tee, hit hybrids, irons, whatnot. But I just felt like I'm just going to let rip with the driver. I was swinging it well, obviously, that week, and I hit driver almost every hole that day, and because I hit the ball in the fairway, I was able to have a wedge and I could attack the pin. So obviously, when you shoot, I think I shot, what was it, 12 under? I think it was, because it was par 71. A lot of good things happened, obviously, and a lot of good shots, a lot of good putts, and I ended up holding a nice par putt on the last hole on number 9 to shoot the 59, which was a moment, obviously, I'll never forget.
Absolutely. And then a lot of viewers think that, once people make it to the PGA Tour, they're like there to stay. But you're a good example of perseverance. And, it wasn't all given to you once you got to the PGA Tour. You fluctuated a little bit between the Corn Ferry and the PGA Tour until you really, I remember, it might have been close to where you live at TPC in the Corn Ferry Tour finals. I believe you finally had a good finish, and you said, "This is the last time I'm going through this. I'm going to the tour." And that's kind of what I remember. We spoke about that, and that was kind of the kick in the rear end, or like the confidence booster you needed to finally get to the PGA Tour and be a force to be reckoned with out there.
Yeah, that was 2013. It was the first year they did the new Corn Ferry finals. So the last event, was at the Valley course over there at Sawgrass, and there was the most nervous I've ever been in my life on the last 9 holes, because I knew I was ready to play the PGA Tour at a high level. I knew my game was there, and I had gotten in this position, and I just had to basically not throw up on myself. And I remember I made like the most ridiculous double bogey on a par 3 for just missing the green on the back 9, and on like 13 or whatever. And there was a lot of hard holes to come, and 17 was playing extremely difficult. Par is really a par 5. They turned into a par 4 for the week. And but the rough was so thick there that if you missed the fairway, you just couldn't hit the green. You couldn't advance the ball more than, say, 150 yards just from how thick the rough was. So I hit a beautiful drive, and I hit a 6-iron middle of the green, and I went to the last hole. I only needed bogey, I believe at the time, to get my card back. And but there was water left, so I mean, a quick little snap hook double would have probably crippled me for life. So I remember I hit the fairway and hit it just over the green and managed to kind of two putt for par. And I remember I saw a clip of it recently actually, and I was so pumped. I fist pumped. And living in Jacksonville, I had a lot of friends and family there, and I knew it was a huge moment for me because I knew I'd figured something out in my game, and my confidence level had been increasing because I'd played some PGA Tour events, I'd played some Korn Ferry events, and I knew I'd figured something out. I don't know what that is, but I knew I was ready to play some good golf. And looking back on it, you're right. That was that was a big moment in my career.
Absolutely. And then you went on to you have a very successful PGA Tour career. Now tell me about your first win on the PGA Tour. It was quite the win, but I remember you telling me a story about just the travel to get to that event was just a nightmare. And then it was in China, right? Your first event at WGC?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I could talk for an hour about that tournament. I mean, I had played a few events leading up to it in the Safeway and then the Shriners tournament in Vegas, and then we flew to Malaysia to play. So I found out, like, I think it was on the Friday while I was playing in Malaysia, that I was in the tournament in China because of my FedEx Cup ranking the year before. I kind of was right on the border, and JB Holmes was actually the one that withdrew, and I kind of snuck in last person in the field. So in order to go to China, you need a visa. So we didn't have a visa because obviously I didn't think I was going to get into the tournament. I had never even knew I was on the radar of making the tournament. So my wife she didn't go to the course that day, and she had to go to the embassy in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, to try and get us visas to go to China. So she was like a trooper, and there's such a even though there's a lot of English speaking people in Malaysia at the Chinese embassy, and it was a nightmare for her. Put it that way, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So she was a trooper. She ended up. We had to wait until Monday morning to finalize everything, so we got it. So then my caddy had Bradley at the time he had to go through the whole process a couple days later because my wife wasn't able to do it for Bradley. So Monday we did that. Then we flew to Shanghai. I believe it was either Monday night or we got there Tuesday morning. So my wife actually caddied for me in the practice round on Tuesday because my caddy Bradley was a day behind. So we just nipped around the course, and we actually borrowed one of the head pros' smaller golf bags so she wouldn't have to carry the big one. And we just nipped around, played the fastest practice round I've ever played in my life. I was just happy to be there. I mean, it's my first World Golf Championship event. It's a massive purse, no cut. It's going to be a nice payday. Obviously, all the top dogs are there. So I was just happy to be there. And then Wednesday, it got rained out all day, so I don't think I left the hotel room, to be honest. I wasn't in the Pro-Am, so it was going to be a rest day anyway, and just sat in the hotel room all day. And actually, I didn't ever practice putting that whole week. Like on Thursday, when I walked to the first tee, I was like, oh, I didn't even know there was a putting green there. So it wasn't like I was grinding. There were so many strange things happened that week. Like because we were in Malaysia the week before, it was so hot. I had a bunch of my Srixon hats that I was wearing, and I just left them there because you're just sweating so much. So I got to the course. Fortunately, one of the Srixon reps was there, and he had some golf balls for me, but he didn't have any hats. So I actually played the first round of that tournament without a Srixon hat on, and which was bizarre. And I think I shot like 3 or 4 under the first round. So then in my locker the next day, they FedExed me some Srixon hats, but like normally they say Cleveland Golf on the side and the back, and so I wore a totally different style hat, and most of us pros obviously wear the same style hat all the time.
Yeah.
So I wore this style hat the next 3 days, and so that was just so unique, and the hat didn't quite fit right. It was a little too shallow, but so if you look back at all the pictures, I'm wearing a slightly different hat. So it was kind of a mad dash to find me Srixon hats because ultimately, I mean, I was on TV a lot and
Yeah,
was
and
able
that really put you on the map. That that qualified you for the majors, right?
yeah, I mean, that got me into the top 50 in the world because I'd played well up to that, but still hadn't had like obviously a like huge breakthrough moment. And being a Scottish player, I mean, I couldn't have picked a better tournament to win other than a major, obviously, because a World Golf Championship event counts for European Tour and PGA
Mm-hmm.
Tour, obviously. So it was ultimately it was bizarre because I wasn't actually a member of the European Tour at the time. The victory didn't count towards European points list and Ryder Cup point list and all that. So ultimately, I got kind of punished for not being a European member, but still, it opened up a whole new world for me.
Yeah, yeah, and then you won the Travelers in Connecticut, and then that's kind of
Yeah.
where you were on the bubble of being picked or not for the Ryder Cup team. And I know that still stings, to not be able to participate in the Ryder Cup, but looking forward to that. You'll have many more to qualify for. But like, what was your first experience like at the Masters, for example?
Yeah, I mean that 2015 2016 year was definitely the best year I've ever had. I mean, that qualified for me for the Masters, so I played my first Masters in 2016, and yeah, I mean obviously going there for the first time, I had never been there as a spectator, so going there to play was terrific. Getting to play the tournament, just in that atmosphere. I mean, you watched it on TV, obviously, your whole life. I mean, that was a treat. Then I played in the following year, 2017. Also, unfortunately, the 2 years I played, I haven't really done any good. I missed the cut both years, but the weather was tricky both years. It was very windy, and it was cold or hot, cold or hot. It was really weird, and I just hadn't quite. I hadn't putted well in the 2 times I've been there. So that's one thing. When I hopefully get back and play again, I gotta spend way more time when it comes around the greens, and hopefully we'll figure that puzzle out. But it's an amazing place, very special, and it's a true honor to be a part of that tournament. So I'm very lucky to have played in it twice, and hopefully I can qualify for it more as the years go on.
Yeah, and I've had the chance to caddy for you in two majors in 2017. The Erin Hills, God, that was a terrible walk. Erin Hills in Wisconsin, and then the British Open at Royal Birkdale was incredible. I got some questions from the public. There's a lot of viewers watching us, and there's a fellow named Eric Uhar. Do you think he wants to know? Do you think you'll see better scores, or do you think that players are going to be a little more relaxed when the PGA Tour does restart, since there's going to be no fans? Like, are you going to have the first tee jitters still, since there's no one watching, or do you think it's mainly playing for? There's enough at stakes that's more what makes you nervous?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, obviously. I mean, I know there's been a couple days in random tournaments over the last few years where fans weren't allowed in for security, weather reasons, from trees being blown down or whatnot. So, but I was never involved in any of those. So it's definitely going to be really strange. I mean, golf is obviously a game where you feed off the crowd. Maybe not as much as other sports, but I mean, you do. Like, I seem to play a little bit better when I have that kind of adrenaline rush going through me, and I find my game reaches a different level. So obviously, without the fans, you're going to have to find a way to create that yourself. There'll be a lot of awkward waves to the crowd, like when people like hold their pot. They're just used to like a little wave, I guess, and then they'll be like, "Well, wait a minute, actually, nobody clapped." So
Yeah,
there'll
exactly.
definitely
Or
be a lot
no
of
high
those. But
fives in between players and stuff like that.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think the scores when we do get going again, they'll be very good. I mean, everyone's obviously going to be super rested, and a lot of people are going to be as fit as they've ever been, working out and whatnot. So I
Or the
think,
or the opposite.
Yeah, true. That's what I was saying to my wife the other day. I was like, you're going to see a lot of guys like mega fit or not fit. There's probably no treading water during this 12-week break, you know.
No, it's not going to be good. I got another question from Danielle Boutet. You've done a lot of work with Vision 54, obviously. Do you have any pointers to relax, like tension or grip pressure, when you set up to hit like a critical shot? Like when you're really under pressure, have they taught you any sort of ways of relaxing? Because I mean, obviously, you've always had tremendous tempo, and you don't squeeze the club too hard. So I thought you were a good guy to ask that question. What do you do like when you really are? You mentioned the last hole to secure your card, or obviously holes when you're in contention. How do you relax yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's the kind of the like magic question, I guess. So yeah, I've worked with Lynn and Pia from Vision 54 for many years now, and I mean, they would want me to say this. Like their big thing is your play box. So that's like when you're walking into the ball, and as you're over the ball, what's going through this crazy brain of ours. And their big thing is, okay, you have to think of something. So if that's um, keeping kind of the same grip pressure throughout your whole swings, it's very easy to like, yeah, grab it on the way down. So that might be something I think about, was be like, okay, if my grip pressure's say a 7 out of 10, can I keep it a 7 out of 10 all the way to the finish, not just at the ball and then grip it? So that's something kind of cool to think about. And but you got to practice it. You got to go on your range at home and be like, you know what, I'm going to try and keep constant grip pressure, or I'm going to hold my finish or my fall through for 3 seconds, or I'm going to think about, okay, I'm going to get my left shoulder under my chin on the way back. Or like there needs to be one thought that you just fully commit to and almost distract yourself from what's out here,
From the
the
end
ball,
result? Yeah.
yeah. So give yourself one kind of feeling, but it's very important to practice it on the range. Um, every time you go out there and maybe hit 3 to 5 balls, 10 balls, being like, okay, this is an important shot. What am I going to think about? So you've already kind of rehearsed it for when you actually need to do it in a tournament. So practice what you're willing to kind of do in tournaments is big.
Excellent. Last question from the public, from Martin Ducharme. Hardest course for you to mentally prepare? Is there a course that just gets you every time, or that you just find harder mentally than others?
Well, I mean, obviously, there's so many tournaments you play in the PGA Tour. So the ones you absolutely hate, you probably just don't play that often. To be
Yeah.
honest, you just take that week off. But I mean, something like I mean, one of the courses I've had a lot of success on would be PGA National down there in Palm Beach Gardens for the Honda
The
Classic.
Honda
Um,
Classic, yeah.
but it's obviously one of the most demanding courses we play all year from a standpoint. There's water almost every hole. I mean, there's not a course I've ever played in my life that you can make a double bogey or a triple bogey just like that. I mean, one bad shot there on really, I mean, the whole back nine. I mean, 10's very difficult. 11, one bad swing, double. I mean, 14, one bad swing, double. 15, 16, 17. So, I mean, you
Yeah.
can play pretty decent and shoot 4, 5, 6 over in a heartbeat, just
Yeah.
with just being a little bit off. So I think I mean that course there at PGA National is definitely a difficult. It's a very high stress course. I mean, there's some courses that are very difficult, like Torrey Pines. Like you've played U.S. Open there. Torrey Pines is not a high stress golf course. It's very difficult in its own way, but there's very few hazards. There's very few OBs.
Yeah.
Like you just get up there
You
and
don't
rail it. It's just yeah. I mean, it's very
you don't feel
demanding. It
like you're
just keeps
gonna lose
coming
a
at
ball
you.
on every shot. Like
Yeah. I
Honda,
mean,
you
if
feel like
you
you're gonna one bad shot, you lose your ball and it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. So both obviously extremely difficult courses, but one of them is very stressful and one of them is just extremely hard. So I mean, those high stress courses can be very rewarding if you're playing well, but if you're not playing well, it makes you want to quit.
Yeah. All right, now my questions.
Uh-oh.
On a scale of 1 to 10, rate my caddy.
Your caddying skills are high. I would give you a good 8, which is
Excellent.
probably higher than most of my other caddies, to be honest. But
That's
yeah, I
excellent.
mean,
Very nice of you.
we could obviously talk about you and your caddying for days. So we'll just move on.
Exactly. The best trash talk you have done under your breath, because I know you're not the most expressive person on the course, but you do trash talk. So, like, do you have any memories of trash talking a guy, or just maybe even your caddy that didn't think you were going to do well and you did well, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I try to kind of stay out of other people's business when I'm playing. But I remember I did have this one caddy for a while, English guy, James Williams. Actually, ultimately, he was my caddy when I won the Irish Open. But this was before, a few years before. I remember we were at Reno Tahoe. We're on the 16th hole, and I was playing pretty good. Had a chance to top 10 if I finished strong. Maybe one birdie last 3 holes. I had a chance to top 10. I remember the 16th hole. There's brutal downhill par three, very difficult to make a three on, and I hit it in the front bunker, right bunker, and he just like basically yelled at me from the tee all the way to the green, like you just can't hit it there. Like you gotta be better than that. Like you suck, basically. And I was just like, well, he's right, but like, why the hell is he saying that? Like, we need to. So I remember I got into the bunker and I was like, that's it. I'm showing this guy. I'm getting this ball up and down. I don't even care. So I managed to get it up and down, and I parred the 17th, and I duck hooked it off the tee on 18, made double bogey. Oh gosh. So we
Uh,
we had a moment. We had a moment afterwards.
exactly. All right.
Yeah.
What's the worst shot you've ever hit, and what's the worst shot that you saw another player hit on your PGA Tour career? For caddying for you, I have a few in mind.
Yeah. I mean, I've obviously I think the worst shot I've ever hit, like in a big moment, was my shank on 17 at Sawgrass, for my
Oh,
for my third, was it my third shot? Yeah, it was my third shot, because the first one, it was on Saturday, TBC Sawgrass Players Championship. I'm in like 5th place on 17 on Saturday, so I'm like way up there, and the pin was front left, and I hit a pitching wedge, and still to this day I thought I'd just stoned it. I mean, I hit it nice. Wasn't a 10 out of 10 strike, but it was a 9 out of 10, straight at the pin, and it came up obviously just a fraction short, hit the wood in the water. So I thought, okay, well, I knew I hit it a 9 out of 10. If I just hit it a 10 out of 10, I'm going to carry 3 or 4 yards more. Perfect. And then, so I just leant on it a little bit more and shanked it almost in the flower bed island there on the right. So ultimately, I mean, of course, we've you play golf long enough, we've all hit some of the most horrendous shots in the world. Um, but
well,
that was probably.
that's what viewers at home, because when you watch TV and you watch golf on TV, you only see like the top 5 or top 10 guys for that week. I mean, you've seen some horrendous shots, and I have too. Being with you guys out there for so long, is there one that comes in mind from like a playing partner that you were just like, what in the hell was that?
I think I hate to call out a fellow Canadian, but I watched David Hearn hit one of the worst shots of my life. However, I will give him credit. It was on the. It's a great story. We're on the last hole at Muirfield Village on 18 there, and it was on Friday. We're trying to make the cut, and I think I was playing decent enough where I didn't need to worry. But David was right on the near the cut line, and it's a hard hole there. Obviously, bunkers down the right, creek down the left, kind of a small fairway, and I mean it's long. It's like 480, 490. And David, very straight hair, one of the straightest hairs on the PGA Tour, hits it OB right off the last hole at Muirfield Village. I didn't know actually that was possible. However, to make the story great, and I give him all the credit in the world, he reloads, pumps it down there. He like flags like a 4 or 5 iron, makes the putt to make the cut on the number. I'll never forget that.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
Next question. Do you really believe you look like Justin Timberlake? Like, you've told me that before. There's no way.
I mean, I think over the years I've got uglier, to be honest. I used to think I was reasonably attractive at one point, but now at 34, at least I'm good at golf. So but I did when I was younger. When I was younger, and I shaved my head. I mean, obviously, my wife buzz cut my hair a few weeks ago, so I look like a tennis ball now. But,
on purpose.
Yes, but I mean, back in the day, side profile maybe, the jaw and the nose maybe, but I would.
Sure. Whatever you. All right, last question. Being Scottish, have you ever played in a kilt, and was it windy?
Ooh, you sick man. Have I ever? No, I didn't. I remember one time though. I mean, I'm looking at my yard here. I did do a photo shoot once at my house, and I had my kilt on. And I actually had this lawnmower, right? And all the cars driving in on the street were like stopping and staring about how weird it was that I was in my kilt pushing this little lawnmower, and there was a guy like taking pictures. And fortunately, they never used that picture. I never saw like the final copy. It was the same day they filmed me in my hot tub with all the golf balls, so they chose to use that picture instead of the Scotsman in his kilt on his front yard with a lawnmower. So that was probably the only time I've ever had the kilt on in like a somewhat of a golf situation.
Well, I can't thank you enough. Viewers are going to be very happy to finally meet Russell Knox. I've spoke about you many, many times, and all the best in the future. All the best with the hopefully the PGA Tour season starts. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Merci beaucoup.
Oh, excellent.
Yes. Well, thank you, buddy.